Hi, my name is Courtney Snodgress, and for my research project, I decided to do the Trans-Canada Keystone Pipeline leak of 2017, which happened in Amherst, South Dakota. And a little bit of background of this company is they supply natural gas and oil to all of North America, and they also offshore some of their products to foreign countries. So the oil spill that I was focusing on happened in South Dakota, and on the left you can see that yellow line going through, so that's where the area was, or that's where the oil spill happened. And this pipeline starts in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and it finishes in Houston, Texas. And there is also multiple stop points or pump stations along the way in North and South Dakota, Illinois, Missouri, Oklahoma, and then finally in Texas. This pipeline transports over 590,000 barrels of oil a day to Houston. So it is a very big moneymaker for them. And on November 17th, 2017, they had to shut down the pipeline because there was a leak. And originally, the officials stated that it was about 210,000 gallons of oil that was spilled. But after doing the evaluation of the contamination site, it turned out to be double that and be over 420,000 barrels of oil that was leaked into the ground. So the biggest arguments that TransCanada had from protesters was that they feared that the pipeline would spoil the landscape, and in the event of a possible leak, that it would ruin the water tables and contaminate the vegetation and soil that was in that area. And they also said that there would be no permanent job creation. While on the contrary, supporters said that transporting the oil through an underground pipeline was safer than going through the railroads, because oil was getting transferred from Canada to the States and to Mexico through railroads, and that was actually a riskier bet than doing it from underground pipelines. And they also said that they would create over 40,000 jobs just for the South Dakota area. But the protesters were saying, yes, they will create jobs, but they won't be permanent. It'll only be temporary, because once the oil pipeline work runs out, then the workers move somewhere else. And another argument for the supporters of the pipeline were that it would reduce the reliance of overseas energy. So we wouldn't have to rely on imports from Venezuela and the Middle East. Some of the warning signs that I noticed when they were building this pipeline was that it was a very high pressured flow pipeline that had a very thin walled pipe. So there was a lot of volume going through it, but the engineers decided to cut costs to make it into a very thinner wall and dig it deeper into the ground. And another red flag was that they installed it during the winter time, like right before winter. So the ground was very soggy and dense, and they had to use concrete weights to hold the pipes down, which created extra stress on the pipes. And they used the same method just 200 miles south of Amherst, South Dakota, which I have on my PowerPoint. They used that over a year before, and they also had an oil leak. So the oil leak in Amherst, South Dakota, it was immediately stopped within 5 minutes from the IT department in Canada because they have pipeline technology monitoring, and once they identified that there was a change in pressure flow, they immediately shut down that pipeline, contacted the nearest oil drill rig crew that was in that same area, and sent them over to look at it. So once the drill rigs saw that there was oil on the surface, they were required by corporate to fill out the questionnaire, and they took the radius of the oil and how much of it there was, and they have to submit that by regulation to the Transportation Safety Board within 48 hours. The biggest challenge for TransCanada was they have to report oil spills or any incident report within Canada and America. So within the United States, they have to report to Department of Transportation, the Pipeline Hazardous and Materials Control Board, and the person in charge of all of this is the Information Resource Manager. And they have to have that preliminary incident report filled out within 48 hours only for Canada, but they have to submit that within 4 days in America. The most effective way for TransCanada to alert other citizens in nearby communities of the oil spill was through social media. So, like I have on my PowerPoint slide, they posted stuff on Twitter and Facebook, and of course had their original website updated, and informed the government agencies and local authorities that actually sent out text messages to people in that community to avoid the area. And it took them 12 days to clean up the spill and to get crews out there, and this cost them an additional $9.57 million. After the 12-day cleanup, the contaminated soil was disposed of through incineration, and these were the references I used and where I got all my information. Thank you for listening to my presentation.